left his pregnant wife for his side chick. Then, life taught him a brutal lesson. "I'm done with her," Marcos said, throwing his wedding ring on the table. His pregnant wife stood frozen, tears streaming down her face. Across town, his side chick was already picking out paint colors for their new apartment. But Karma? Karma was just getting started. Before we dive into this story, if you're new here, please hit that subscribe button right now. We share real-life stories that will make you think twice about your choices. And drop a comment below telling us where you're watching from. Are you Team Karma or Team Forgiveness? Let's get into it. Marcus Thompson had it all. At 32 years old, he was living what most people would call a good life. He had a beautiful wife named Sarah, a steady job as a sales manager at a car dealership, and a nice 3-bedroom house in the suburbs. Sarah was 6 months pregnant with their first child, a baby girl they had already named Emma. But Marcus wasn't happy. He told himself this lie every single day. He looked at Sarah with her growing belly and her tired eyes from working full-time as a teacher while pregnant, and he felt nothing. Or at least, that's what he convinced himself. The truth was different. The truth was that Marcus had been seeing someone else for 8 months. Her name was Vanessa, and she was everything Sarah wasn't, at least in Marcus's foolish mind. Vanessa was 24, worked at a nightclub downtown, and didn't talk about mortgages or baby nurseries. She wore tight dresses, laughed at all his jokes, and made him feel young again. She didn't ask him to fix the leaky faucet or remind him about doctor's appointments. With Vanessa, life felt exciting. With Sarah, life felt like responsibility. Marcus had met Vanessa at a work party. She was bartending that night, and they had talked for hours. One conversation led to another. One drink led to a phone number. One text led to a secret meeting. And before Marcus knew what he was doing, he was living a double life. Every Tuesday and Thursday, he told Sarah he was working late. Instead, he was at Vanessa's apartment, pretending he was single, pretending he didn't have a pregnant wife waiting at home. Vanessa knew about Sarah, but she didn't care. "She doesn't appreciate you like I do," Vanessa would say, running her fingers through his hair. "She trapped you with that baby. You deserve to be happy." Those words were poison, but Marcus drank them up like sweet wine. He started to believe them. He started to resent Sarah for being pregnant, for being tired, for needing him. He forgot that he was the one who had wanted to start a family. He forgot all the nights he had held Sarah and talked about their future together. All he could see now was Vanessa. Exciting, fun, uncomplicated Vanessa. The breaking point came on a cold Tuesday evening in November. Sarah had cooked dinner, pot roast with vegetables, Marcus's favorite. She had set the table nicely, even lit candles. She was wearing the maternity dress Marcus had bought her for her birthday, trying to look pretty despite being exhausted from teaching 25 third graders all day. "I thought we could have a nice dinner together," Sarah said softly when Marcus walked in. "We haven't really talked in weeks." Marcus looked at the table, at his wife's hopeful face, and felt irritation rise in his chest. He had plans to see Vanessa in an hour. Vanessa was making reservations at that new Italian place downtown. "I'm not hungry," Marcus said coldly. "But I made your favorite." "I said I'm not hungry, Sarah," Marcus snapped. "God, can you just give me some space? You're always on me about something." Sarah's face crumpled. "I just wanted to spend time with you. Is that so wrong? You're never home anymore, Marcus. Even when you're here, you're not really here." "Maybe because I'm tired of this," Marcus exploded. The words came out before he could stop them. "I'm tired of coming home to this boring life. I'm tired of talking about baby stuff and bills and all this responsibility. I'm only 32, Sarah. I'm too young to feel this old." Silence filled the room. Sarah placed a hand on her belly, protecting their unborn daughter from the poison in her father's words. "What are you saying?" she whispered. Marcus should have stopped. He should have taken it back. He should have remembered the woman he married 5 years ago. The woman who had stood by him when he lost his job. The woman who had nursed him through pneumonia. The woman carrying his child. But he didn't stop. "I'm saying I want out, Sarah. I want a divorce." The pot roast grew cold on the table as Sarah cried. Marcus went upstairs, packed a bag, and left. He didn't look back at his wife sitting at the table, her hands on her pregnant belly, her world falling apart. He drove straight to Vanessa's apartment. When he told her what he had done, she threw her arms around him and kissed him hard. Finally, she squealed. I knew you'd come to your senses. That woman was holding you back, baby. Now we can really be together. They went to the Italian restaurant. They drank wine. Marcus drank enough for both of them since Vanessa was celebrating. They laughed. They made plans. Vanessa talked about moving into a bigger apartment together, about trips they would take, about the life they would build. Marcus felt free. He felt alive. He felt like he had escaped from prison. He had no idea he had just walked into a nightmare. The divorce papers were filed within a week. Marcus hired a lawyer, a sharp woman named Mrs. Chen, who wore expensive suits and had a reputation for winning cases. Sarah couldn't afford a good lawyer. She was 6 months pregnant and had to use her savings to hire a public defender who was handling 20 other cases. She was already at a disadvantage. Marcus didn't care. He wanted out, and he wanted out fast. The divorce proceedings were brutal. Marcus fought Sarah on everything: the house, the savings, even the car. His lawyer argued that Sarah had a job and could support herself. They conveniently forgot to mention that Marcus was the one who had cheated, who had abandoned his pregnant wife, who had broken his vows. Sarah showed up to court hearings with her growing belly, looking exhausted and heartbroken. Marcus showed up with Vanessa on his arm, both of them dressed like they were going to a party. Look at him, people whispered in the courthouse hallways. Left his pregnant wife for that young girl. Shameful. But Marcus didn't hear them. Or maybe he did, and just didn't care. He was too caught up in his new life with Vanessa. They moved in together 2 months before the divorce was finalized. Vanessa found a beautiful loft apartment in the trendy part of downtown. Expensive, with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the city skyline. It cost 3 times what Marcus's mortgage with Sarah had been, but Vanessa assured him it was worth it. We deserve nice things, she said. We deserve to enjoy our lives. Marcus agreed. He took on extra hours at work to afford the rent. He bought Vanessa expensive gifts, designer handbags, jewelry, clothes. Whatever she wanted, he got for her. He was trying to prove to himself that leaving Sarah had been the right choice. Meanwhile, Sarah gave birth alone. Emma came 3 weeks early, on a snowy February night. Sarah's mother was there, holding her hand, coaching her through the contractions. But the person who should have been there, the father of her child, was at a club with Vanessa, celebrating her 25th birthday. Sarah labored for 14 hours. When Emma finally arrived, tiny and perfect with a head full of dark hair, Sarah held her daughter and cried. Not from joy, though there was joy, but from the sadness of knowing that this beautiful little girl's father had chosen not to be there. Marcus found out about Emma's birth from a text message his mother sent him. Your daughter was born tonight. 6 pounds, 4 ounces. Mother and baby are healthy. In case you cared. He stared at the message for a long time. Vanessa was dancing across the club, waving at him to join her. He put his phone away and ordered another drink. Everything okay? Vanessa asked when she came back to the table. Yeah, Marcus lied. Everything's perfect. The divorce was finalized in March. Marcus got to keep most of the savings. Sarah got the house but had to take on the full mortgage. The judge ordered Marcus to pay child support, a measly $500 a month, barely enough to cover diapers and formula. Marcus complained about it constantly. $500, he would rant to Vanessa. For a kid I never even see. It's robbery. Vanessa would rub his shoulders and agree. It's so unfair, baby. That woman is just trying to bleed you dry. But don't worry. I'll take care of you. And she did take care of him, in her own way. She cooked him dinners. Takeout from expensive restaurants heated up in the microwave. She kept the apartment looking nice. By hiring a cleaning service Marcus had to pay for. She made him feel wanted, as long as he kept buying her things. But Marcus was happy. Or he told himself he was happy. He had a beautiful girlfriend, a cool apartment, and freedom. What more could a man want? Life with Vanessa was everything he thought it would be. They went out every weekend. Clubs, bars, concerts. They slept in late on Sundays. They took weekend trips to the beach. There were no responsibilities, no boring routines, no crying babies. Meanwhile, Sarah was at home with Emma, working her teaching job during the day and taking care of a newborn at night. She was exhausted, broke, and heartbroken. But she kept going because she had to, because Emma needed her. Marcus didn't ask about his daughter. He didn't send extra money when Sarah's car broke down. He didn't call to check if Emma was okay when she got her first cold. He had moved on to his new life and his old life. His wife, his daughter, was just an inconvenient memory he tried to forget. But life has a funny way of teaching lessons to people who refuse to learn them the easy way. 6 months into living with Vanessa, Marcus started to notice things he had missed before. Little things at first. Like how Vanessa never seemed to have any money, even though she worked full-time at the club. "Tips have been slow," she would say, shrugging, before handing him her credit card bills to pay. Or how she got angry when he suggested staying in on a Saturday night. "You're being boring again," she would pout. "I didn't leave that dull life just to have another one. If you can't keep up, maybe I made a mistake." That threat, "maybe I made a mistake," became her weapon. She used it whenever Marcus questioned anything, whenever he was too tired to go out, whenever he couldn't buy her something she wanted, whenever he mentioned he was stressed about money. The expensive loft apartment was draining Marcus's bank account. Between rent, Vanessa's shopping habit, and the constant going out, he was spending more than he made. He picked up extra shifts at the dealership, worked weekends, stayed late. But it was never enough. "You need to ask for a raise," Vanessa said one night, lying on their expensive couch that Marcus was still making payments on. "Other guys your age make way more money. Maybe you're just not ambitious enough." Her words stung. They reminded him of something Sarah used to say, except Sarah's version was different. "You work so hard, honey. Make sure you're taking care of yourself too." Support versus criticism. Kindness versus cruelty. But Marcus was too blind to see the difference. Then there was the jealousy. Vanessa got angry whenever Marcus talked to other women, even customers at work. She checked his phone constantly, went through his messages, demanded to know where he was every minute of every day. "I just don't want to lose you," she would say, making her controlling behavior sound like love. "After what you did to your ex-wife, how do I know you won't do the same to me?" The irony was lost on Marcus. He had cheated on Sarah with Vanessa, but now Vanessa didn't trust him not to cheat on her. But instead of seeing the pattern, Marcus just tried harder to prove his loyalty. He stopped talking to female coworkers. He gave Vanessa all his passwords. He called her every hour when he was at work. It still wasn't enough. By the time their first anniversary of living together came around, Marcus was exhausted. He was working 60 hours a week, had maxed out 2 credit cards, and barely slept. Vanessa, meanwhile, had quit her job at the club. "It was too stressful," she explained. "Besides, why should I work when you make enough for both of us?" Marcus wanted to point out that he didn't make enough for both of them, that they were drowning in debt, that he was tired all the time, but he didn't. Because Vanessa would just accuse him of not loving her, of regretting leaving Sarah, of being boring and old. So he kept quiet and worked harder. Meanwhile, 300 miles away, Sarah was thriving. After the initial heartbreak, she had picked herself up. She focused on Emma and her job. Her mother helped with child care. She made new friends, other single mothers who understood her struggle. She started exercising again, eating better, taking care of herself. One day, she ran into an old friend from college named David. He was a pediatrician, divorced, with 2 kids of his own. They got coffee. Then they got dinner. Then they started dating. David was everything Marcus wasn't. He was patient and kind. He loved spending time with Emma, didn't complain about child support for his own kids, and actually wanted to be a father. He helped Sarah fix things around the house. He cooked dinner while she graded papers. He made her laugh again. 6 months into dating, David asked Sarah to marry him. She said yes. Sarah didn't send Marcus an invitation to the wedding. Why would she? But she did send him an email, because legally she had to notify him about major changes in Emma's life. The email was simple. "I wanted to let you know that I'm getting remarried. Emma will have a stepfather who loves her very much. If you ever decide you want to be part of her life, you know how to reach me. Otherwise, I hope you find happiness." Marcus read the email 3 times. He felt something twist in his chest. Regret? Jealousy? Loss? He wasn't sure. He looked around his expensive apartment with its view of the city skyline. Vanessa was in the bedroom, yelling at him to hurry up because they had dinner reservations. For just a moment, Marcus wondered if he had made a terrible mistake. But then Vanessa appeared in a new dress he had bought her, and she smiled, and Marcus pushed those thoughts away. He was happy. He had chosen this life. He had to believe it was the right choice, because if it wasn't, then what had he thrown away his family for? The beginning of the end started with Vanessa's phone. It was a Tuesday night. Marcus had come home early from work, rare for him these days. Vanessa was in the shower, and her phone kept buzzing on the kitchen counter. Marcus normally wouldn't have looked, but the phone lit up with a text preview, and he saw it before he could look away. "Can't wait to see you tonight, baby. He's working late again, right?" The message was from someone named Blake. Marcus felt his blood go cold. He picked up the phone. More messages loaded. "I hate sneaking around, but it's so hot knowing he has no idea. Did you get the bracelet I sent? Don't let Marcus see it, LOL. When are you finally going to leave him? You keep saying soon." The messages went back months. Months. While Marcus was working 60-hour weeks to pay for Vanessa's lifestyle, she had been seeing someone else. Someone named Blake who sent her gifts and took her out on nights when Marcus was working late. The bathroom door opened. Vanessa came out in a towel, her hair wet. She saw Marcus holding her phone. Her face went white, then red. "It's not what you think," she said immediately. "Really?" Marcus's voice was shaking. "Because it looks like you've been cheating on me for months. You're overreacting. Blake is just a friend. We hang out sometimes. It's not a big deal. There are messages here about sneaking around, about him sending you gifts, about you leaving me." Vanessa's face changed. The fake innocence dropped away. "So what if I have been seeing him? You're never here, Marcus. You're always working. What am I supposed to do? Sit around this apartment alone all the time? I'm working to pay for this apartment, to pay for your clothes and your dinners and your lifestyle. Well, maybe Blake appreciates me more than you do. Maybe he actually makes me feel special instead of just throwing money at me. I threw money at you, you demanded it. You spent every dollar I made." They screamed at each other for an hour. All the resentment Marcus had been swallowing came pouring out. All of Vanessa's true feelings about him. That he was boring, that he was old, that Blake was younger and more exciting, came out too. Finally, exhausted, Vanessa said the words Marcus had been dreading for months. "I think we should break up. This isn't working anymore." Marcus stared at her. "You're breaking up with me. You cheated on me." "You cheated on your wife with me," Vanessa shot back. "What did you think would happen? Did you think I was different? You showed me exactly what kind of man you are, the kind who leaves when things get hard. Well, guess what? Things got hard for me too, and I found someone better." She started packing her things that night. By morning, she was gone. She took the expensive jewelry Marcus had bought her, the designer clothes, even some of the furniture she claimed she had paid for. She hadn't. She also took something else, half the money in their joint bank account. Marcus had been stupid enough to put her name on it 6 months ago, when she had convinced him it would show he trusted her. Marcus was left in an expensive apartment he couldn't afford, with maxed-out credit cards, a car payment he was behind on, and an empty bank account. He called in sick to work and sat in the empty apartment for 2 days, trying to process what had happened. He had left his wife and daughter for Vanessa. He had destroyed his family, his reputation, his integrity. And for what? For a woman who had been using him the whole time, who had never really loved him, who had been cheating on him while he worked himself to exhaustion to make her happy. Marcus finally understood what Sarah must have felt. The betrayal, the humiliation, the pain of realizing the person you loved was just using you. But Sarah had been innocent. Marcus was not. Sarah had done nothing wrong. Marcus had destroyed his own life. Karma, it seemed, had a perfect memory. Within a month of Vanessa leaving, Marcus's life completely fell apart. First, he lost the apartment. He couldn't afford the rent on his own, and the landlord wasn't interested in his sob story about his girlfriend leaving. Marcus had to break the lease and pay a penalty. Money he didn't have. He moved into a tiny studio apartment in a bad part of town. It was all he could afford. No view of the city skyline, no floor-to-ceiling windows. Just a small room with a bathroom and a hot plate, in a building that smelled like cigarettes and had roaches in the hallways. Then he lost his car. He had missed too many payments while trying to keep up with Vanessa's spending. The bank repossessed it one morning while he was at work. He had to take the bus after that, something he hadn't done since college. His job was next. Marcus had been so distracted and stressed that his performance had tanked. He missed sales targets. He snapped at customers. He called in sick too often. His boss called him into the office one Friday afternoon and let him go. "He used to be one of our best," his boss said, almost sadly. "I don't know what happened to you, Marcus, but whatever it is, you need to figure it out." Marcus walked out with a small severance check that was gone within 2 weeks. He applied for unemployment. He looked for new jobs, but the economy was bad and sales positions were competitive. Weeks turned into months. His savings, what little Vanessa hadn't taken, ran out. He had to ask his mother for money. She gave it to him, but not without a lecture. "I told you that girl was no good," his mother said, her voice tired and disappointed. "I told you that you were making a mistake leaving Sarah, but you didn't listen. You threw away a good woman and a beautiful daughter. For what? For someone who left you the second things got hard?" "I know, Mom," Marcus said quietly. "I know I messed up." "Do you? Do you really? Because Sarah is married now, Marcus, to a good man who actually loves her and Emma. Your daughter calls another man daddy because you chose not to be there." Those words cut deeper than anything else. Marcus had a daughter he hadn't seen in over a year, a daughter who was growing up without him, a daughter who would barely remember him. He thought about reaching out to Sarah, about asking to see Emma. But what would he say? "Sorry I abandoned you while you were pregnant? Sorry I fought you for money in the divorce? Sorry I sent the minimum child support and complained about it. Can I be a dad now?" He was too ashamed. So he did nothing. Meanwhile, life kept getting harder. Marcus found a new job finally, but it was part-time retail work paying $12 an hour. He went from being a sales manager with a good salary to folding clothes at a department store. His co-workers were mostly teenagers and college students. He was 34 years old and starting over from scratch. He ran into people he knew sometimes, former clients from the dealership, old friends. They would do a double take when they saw him in his retail uniform, and he would see the pity in their eyes. "Marcus, hey man, how've you been?" Good. Just working here now. You know how it is." They didn't know how it was. They didn't know he was living in a studio apartment with roaches, eating ramen for dinner most nights, taking the bus everywhere. They didn't know that the man who had seemed to have it all just 2 years ago now had nothing. One day, Marcus's mother called with news. "I thought you should know," she said carefully. "Sarah had another baby, a boy. I saw the pictures on Facebook. She looks happy." Marcus thanked his mother and hung up. He sat in his small apartment in the cheap plastic chair he had bought at a thrift store, and he cried. Really cried, for the first time since everything had fallen apart. Sarah had moved on. She had a husband who loved her, 2 children, a full life. She was happy. And Marcus? Marcus had nothing. No family, no career, no money, no future that looked anything like the one he had thrown away. He thought about Vanessa sometimes. He had looked her up on social media once and immediately regretted it. She was engaged to Blake, the man she had been cheating on Marcus with. They were planning a wedding in Hawaii. Vanessa looked happy in the photos, radiant even. She had used Marcus to escape her own life, and when he had served his purpose, she had moved on to the next man. She probably didn't think about Marcus at all anymore. But Marcus thought about her, and Sarah, and Emma, and the life he could have had if he hadn't been so stupid, so selfish, so blind. 2 years after Vanessa left, Marcus hit rock bottom. He was still working retail, still living in the studio apartment, still alone. He had paid off most of his debt, but only because he had no life, no going out, no friends, no entertainment. Just work, sleep, cheap food, repeat. One Saturday, he was working the register when a woman came through his line with a little girl. The girl was about 3 years old, with dark curly hair and bright eyes. She looked exactly like Emma. Marcus's hands shook as he scanned the woman's items. The little girl was chattering away, happy and innocent, talking about her daddy taking her to the park later. The woman smiled at her daughter with such love, such patience. Marcus thought about Sarah, about how she had looked at him that way once, about how he had thrown that love away like it was garbage. After work, Marcus did something he should have done years ago. He called Sarah.
She didn't answer. He left a voicemail, his voice breaking. "Sarah, it's Marcus. I know I have no right to call you. I know I don't deserve even a minute of your time. But I need to say this. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for everything I did to you. You deserved so much better than how I treated you. And Emma, God, Emma, I was supposed to be her father, and I abandoned her. I missed everything, her first words, her first steps, her entire life. I can't take it back. I can't fix it. But I need you to know that I know what I did was wrong. I destroyed the best thing I ever had because I was selfish and stupid. You're happy now, I know. You have a family that actually deserves you. I'm not calling to ask for anything. I just needed you to know that I'm sorry, and that I hope someday Emma can forgive me for not being the father she needed." He hung up and cried again. Sarah never called back. He didn't expect her to, but something shifted in Marcus after that call. He stopped feeling sorry for himself and started trying to actually change. He enrolled in community college, taking business classes at night. He worked during the day and studied at night. It was hard, harder than anything he had done before, but he kept at it. He started going to therapy, finally addressing the selfishness and entitlement that had destroyed his life. The therapist made him look at hard truths about himself, about how he had blamed Sarah for his own unhappiness, about how he had let Vanessa manipulate him because it was easier than taking responsibility, about how he had abandoned his daughter because being a father was hard. "The common factor in all your problems is you," the therapist told him one session. "Not Sarah, not Vanessa. You. Until you accept that, you'll never really change." It was harsh, but it was true. Marcus started volunteering at a children's hospital on weekends. He couldn't be there for Emma, but he could be there for other kids who needed someone. It didn't erase what he had done, but it helped him feel a little less worthless. Slowly, very slowly, he started to rebuild. Not the flashy life he had with Vanessa, but a real life, a humble life, a life with purpose. He got promoted to assistant manager at the store. It wasn't much, but it was progress. He saved money and moved to a slightly better apartment, still small, but clean, without roaches. He finished his degree and started looking for sales jobs again. He went on a few dates, but they never went anywhere. Most women weren't interested in a 36-year-old man who was still putting his life back together after destroying it so spectacularly. And honestly, Marcus wasn't ready either. He had too much work to do on himself. One day, 3 years after his call to Sarah, he got a message on social media. It was from Sarah's new husband, David. "Marcus, this is David, Sarah's husband. I'm reaching out because Emma is starting to ask questions about her biological father. Sarah and I have talked, and we think it might be healthy for you to meet her, if you're interested. Not as her father. I'm her father in every way that matters. But as someone in her life. She deserves to know where she came from. If you've really changed, like Sarah thinks you might have, we can arrange a meeting. Think about it." Marcus read the message a dozen times. Emma wanted to meet him. After everything, after years of being absent, he might get a chance to see his daughter. He was terrified. What would he say to her? How could he explain why he hadn't been there? How could he look at Sarah and David and see the family he had thrown away? But he wrote back, "I would love to meet Emma. Thank you for giving me this chance I don't deserve. Just tell me when and where." The meeting was arranged for a Saturday afternoon at a park, neutral ground, with David and Sarah present. Marcus arrived early. He wore his best clothes, a simple button-down shirt and clean jeans. He had bought a small gift for Emma, a stuffed animal, though he worried it was stupid or inappropriate. He sat on a bench and waited, his heart pounding. Then he saw them. Sarah, looking healthy and happy, her hair longer than he remembered. David, tall and kind-looking, holding the hand of a little boy, Sarah's son, with him. And between them, a beautiful 4-year-old girl with dark curly hair and eyes that looked just like Marcus's. Emma. His daughter. His breath caught. She was real. She was beautiful. She was everything he had missed. They walked over. Emma hid behind David's leg, shy. Sarah gave Marcus a small, polite nod. David extended his hand. "Marcus, I'm David. Thanks for coming." Marcus shook his hand, noting how firm and confident David's grip was. This was a man who hadn't abandoned his family. A man who had stepped up to raise another man's child as his own. "Thank you for setting this up," Marcus said quietly. "I know I don't deserve it." Sarah spoke for the first time. Her voice was calm, not angry or bitter. "Emma deserves to know her biological father. Whatever happened between us, that's about us. This is about her." Marcus nodded, unable to speak around the lump in his throat. Sarah knelt down next to Emma. "Sweetie, this is Marcus. He's the man I told you about. Do you want to say hi?" Emma peeked out from behind David's leg. "Hi," she whispered. "Hi, Emma," Marcus said, his voice cracking. "It's really nice to meet you. I brought you something, if that's okay." He looked at Sarah and David for permission. Sarah nodded. Marcus pulled out the stuffed animal, a soft brown bear. Emma's eyes lit up. She took a small step forward and accepted the bear, hugging it to her chest. "Thank you," she said, her voice still quiet. They sat on a blanket and talked. Well, mostly Sarah and David talked while Marcus listened and Emma played with her new bear. They told him about Emma's life, how she loved art class, how she was learning to read, how she wanted to be a veterinarian when she grew up. Marcus listened to stories about a life he had missed entirely. Every word was a small knife to his heart, but he deserved the pain. He had earned it. 5 years passed. Marcus kept his promise. Every month, without fail, he met Emma at the park. He was never late, he never canceled, he never caused problems. He watched her grow from a shy 4-year-old to a confident 9-year-old. He heard about her school plays, her soccer games, her friends. He celebrated her birthdays with small gifts he saved up for. He was there, consistently, in the small way Sarah and David allowed. But he was never her dad. That title belonged to David, who took her to her soccer games, who helped her with homework, who tucked her in at night, who loved her unconditionally from the moment he met Sarah. Marcus was just Marcus. A person in Emma's life. A biological connection. But not a father. He had to live with that. It was his punishment, his karma, his consequence. His own life improved, but slowly. He eventually got back into sales, though not at the same level as before. He rented a decent 1-bedroom apartment. He paid his bills on time. He stayed in therapy. He volunteered. He built a small, quiet life. He never got married again, never had more children. He dated occasionally, but nothing serious. Part of him felt like he didn't deserve that kind of happiness after what he had done. He ran into people from his old life sometimes, former coworkers, old friends. They would ask what he was up to, and he would give vague answers. He didn't tell them about the park visits with Emma. He didn't tell them about his small apartment or his modest job. He certainly didn't tell them about Vanessa. He had looked her up once, about 3 years after she left. Her marriage to Blake had lasted less than a year. She was on her 3rd engagement now, to some guy who owned a boat dealership. In the photos, she looked exactly the same, beautiful, smiling, posing with expensive things. Marcus wondered if she ever thought about him. Probably not. He had been a stepping stone in her life, quickly forgotten. One day, when Emma was 10, she asked Marcus a direct question during their park visit. "Why weren't you there when I was born?" Sarah and David were sitting on a nearby bench, close enough to intervene if needed. Marcus took a deep breath. "Because I made a really bad choice," he told Emma honestly. "I left your mom when she was pregnant with you because I thought I wanted a different life. I was selfish and stupid, and I hurt people I loved. I wasn't there for you because I chose not to be, and that's something I'll regret for the rest of my life." Emma looked at him with those serious eyes that looked so much like his. "Do you wish you had stayed?" "Every single day," Marcus said, his voice breaking. "Your mom is an amazing person, and you're an incredible kid, and I threw that away for something that didn't matter. I can't take it back. I can't fix it. All I can do is be honest with you and try to be better." "Okay," Emma said, processing this. Then, "I'm glad I have my real dad. He's the best." It hurt, but it was true. "David is the best," Marcus agreed. "You're very lucky to have him." Emma nodded and went back to playing. Marcus sat on the bench, watching her, carrying the weight of his choices. After a while, Emma warmed up a little. She showed Marcus a drawing she had made at school. She told him about her little brother. She asked him simple questions like, "What's your favorite color?" and "Do you like dogs?" Marcus answered honestly, gently, trying not to cry in front of this little girl who barely knew him. When it was time to go, Emma surprised everyone by giving Marcus a quick hug. It lasted maybe 2 seconds, but Marcus felt it in his soul. "Will I see you again?" Emma asked. Marcus looked at Sarah and David. Sarah gave a small nod. "If your mom and dad say it's okay, I would really like that," Marcus said. "Okay," Emma said simply, and then she was running off to the playground with David's son. Marcus stood with Sarah and David in awkward silence. "She's incredible," Marcus finally said. "You've done an amazing job with her, both of you." "David's her father in every way that matters," Sarah said firmly. "But we think it's healthy for her to know you exist, as long as you're consistent. If you're going to be in her life, you have to actually be in her life. No more disappearing when things get hard." "I understand," Marcus said. "I won't let her down again. I swear." David spoke up. "I'll be honest with you, Marcus. I didn't want to do this. I didn't want you anywhere near our family after what you did to Sarah. But Sarah is a better person than me, and she thinks everyone deserves a second chance. So here's the deal. You can see Emma once a month, supervised, at this park. If you're late, if you cancel, if you cause any problems, it stops. Emma is my daughter, and I won't let you hurt her the way you hurt Sarah." It should have made Marcus angry, another man laying down rules about his biological daughter. But it didn't, because David was right. He had earned the right to protect Emma. Marcus had not. "I agree to everything," Marcus said. "Thank you, both of you. I don't deserve this kindness." "You're right," Sarah said, her voice finally showing a hint of the pain he had caused. "You don't. But Emma deserves to know where she came from. This isn't for you, Marcus. It's for her." "I understand." Sarah looked at him for a long moment. "You look different. Older. Tired." "I am tired," Marcus admitted. "Life has been hard." "Good," Sarah said, not cruelly, but honestly. "You destroyed a lot of people's lives, Marcus. Mine, Emma's, your own. I'm glad life has been hard. Maybe it taught you something." "It did," Marcus said quietly. "Too late, but it did."
They stood in silence for another moment. Then Sarah said,
"We need to go. Same time next month. Don't be late." Marcus watched them leave. Sarah, David, Emma, and the little boy. A family, complete without him. He sat back down on the bench and finally let himself cry. Not from self-pity this time, but from grief for everything he had lost, everything he had thrown away, everything he could never get back. 10 years after leaving Sarah, Marcus was 42 years old. He sat in his small apartment on a Friday night, alone. His phone buzzed with a notification, a picture from Sarah. She still sent him updates about Emma sometimes, more than he deserved. The picture showed Emma at her middle school graduation. She was wearing a blue dress, standing between Sarah and David, smiling widely. She looked happy. She looked loved. She looked like a kid who had everything she needed. Marcus stared at the photo for a long time. He wasn't in it, of course. He hadn't been invited to the graduation. He had been allowed his monthly park visit the following weekend, where Emma had briefly told him about the ceremony before running off to play. This was his life now, watching his daughter grow up from the outside, seeing her happy family from a distance, being a footnote in her story instead of a main character. He thought about the man he had been 10 years ago, the man who had stood in his kitchen and told his pregnant wife he wanted a divorce, the man who had driven to Vanessa's apartment feeling free and alive, the man who had thought he was choosing happiness. That man was an idiot. That man had no idea what happiness was. Real happiness wasn't excitement or freedom from responsibility. Real happiness was sitting at a dinner table with your wife, even if the conversation was about boring things like mortgages. Real happiness was being there when your daughter was born. Real happiness was building a life with someone, not running away when it got hard. Marcus had learned this lesson, but he had learned it too late. Way too late. He had lost everything: his wife, his daughter, his career, his dignity, chasing something that turned out to be an illusion. Vanessa had never loved him. She had used him for money and excitement, then thrown him away when someone better came along. Just like he had thrown away Sarah. The karma was perfect. Brutal, but perfect. Marcus had become exactly what he had done to Sarah: abandoned, betrayed, left with nothing. And unlike Sarah, who had rebuilt her life and found real love, Marcus remained alone. His punishment was seeing Sarah happy, while he remained trapped in the consequences of his choices. Sometimes people asked Marcus if he regretted leaving Sarah. He always said yes. But the truth was more complicated than that. He regretted it every day. Every single day. But regret didn't change anything. Regret didn't bring back the years he missed with Emma. Regret didn't undo the pain he caused Sarah. Regret didn't rebuild the life he destroyed. Regret was just a weight he carried, a reminder of the man he used to be and the man he hoped he'd never be again. Marcus set down his phone and looked around his small apartment. This was his life. Not the penthouse with the view, not the exciting nights out, not the beautiful girlfriend. Just a quiet apartment, a modest job, and monthly supervised visits with a daughter who called another man Dad. It wasn't much, but it was what he deserved. And maybe, just maybe, if he kept showing up for Emma, if he kept being honest and consistent and humble, she would eventually forgive him. Not forget, he didn't deserve that. But maybe forgive. That was all he could hope for now. That someday his daughter would look at him and see a man who made terrible mistakes, but tried to become better. Not a hero, not even a good father. Just a man who finally learned the lesson life had been trying to teach him all along. That real love isn't about excitement or freedom or escape. Real love is about showing up, being present, doing the hard work, staying when things get tough. Marcus had thrown away that kind of love, and he would pay for it for the rest of his life. 15 years after the divorce, Marcus got another message from Sarah. Emma was now 18, about to graduate high school. The message was simple. Emma asked if you could come to her graduation. Not sitting with the family, but she wants you there. It's her choice, and we're respecting it. Let me know if you can make it. Marcus stared at the message, tears streaming down his face. After all these years, after everything, Emma wanted him there. Not as her father. She had made it clear many times that David was her real dad, but as someone who mattered to her, even just a little. He typed back immediately. I'll be there.
Thank you for telling me. And Sarah, thank you for everything. You gave me more grace than I ever deserved. On graduation day, Marcus sat in the back row of the auditorium. He watched Emma walk across the stage to receive her diploma. She was beautiful, confident, smart. Everything he wasn't there to help her become. After the ceremony, Emma found him in the crowd.
She gave him a brief hug and introduced him to her friends as my biological father, Marcus. Not my dad. That title was reserved for David, who stood nearby with Sarah, both of them smiling proudly at their daughter. Thanks for coming, Emma said. It means something that you showed up. I'll always show up, Marcus promised. Even if I'm late, I'm here now. Emma smiled, a small, forgiving smile. I know. Then she went back to her real family, and Marcus watched them celebrate together. He stayed for a few more minutes, then quietly left. He drove home to his small apartment, made himself dinner, and sat by the window. He thought about the life he could have had, the graduation party he could have been hosting, the proud father he could have been, the family he could have had. But he had made his choices, and now he lived with them. Karma had taught him a brutal lesson. Life had taught him an even more brutal one. And all Marcus could do was accept it, learn from it, and try to be better for whatever time he had left. Because that's what consequences do. They teach you. They humble you. They force you to face the truth about who you are and what you've done. And if you're lucky, very, very lucky, they give you just enough grace to try to become someone better, even if you'll never escape what you've lost. Thank you so much for watching this story all the way to the end. If this resonated with you, if it made you think, if it reminded you to value what you have before it's gone, please hit that subscribe button. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. And tell me in the comments, where are you watching from, and what did you think about Marcus's story? Do people like him deserve second chances? Or are some mistakes too big to forgive? Drop your thoughts below, and see you in the next video.